Nico Collins should be your number one trade target going into week 2. We'll tell you why next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Welcome back. I'm your host, Marcus Mosher. He is Michael Fabiano. And on today's show, we're going to talk about the top trade targets that you need to go out and get over the next couple of days ahead of week 2, including our favorite quarterback options, some NFC East running backs. But Fabs, let's start at the top with Nico Collins. Why is he your number one trade target going into week 2?
Just coming off a bad game and just a lot of questions about that Texans offense right now, Marcus. I mean, they look bad. And the offensive line has got question marks. They don't have Joe Mixon. They don't have Tank Dell. Christian Kirk is injured. So defenses kind of have it easy when they're facing Houston, right? Who do you stop? Nico Collins. And so I feel like, I don't know that you're going to get a discount on him, especially just one bad week. I mean, I'm not getting nuts here. But if you go a little bit deeper, maybe this isn't the season that we think Nico could be projected to have. Right? I mean, he was a player that a lot of people were drafting at the end of the first round. He's a young wide receiver who has shown flashes of potential. I would suggest that I don't love his lack of durability at times. And so that maybe pushes me from entering him into, the rarefied air of Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb. But Houston's offense doesn't look good. It didn't look good. I know it was only 1 week. They got the Buccaneers this Monday night. Maybe things will change. It was a road game against the Rams. The Rams have a good team, but I would certainly be looking into seeing if I could potentially get Nico Collins. And again, I don't know that it's going to be a situation where you'll get much of a discount, but this is Dynasty. And if you can get Nico now, and maybe the numbers are not going to be great this season, but obviously long-term, this guy has got the upside to be a high tight end, a high wide receiver one from a fantasy standpoint.
So I have mixed feelings on this one because I think Nico is an incredible player, but I'm really worried about this Houston offensive line. And I do think as the season goes on, they will figure it out. They'll get the best 5 out there, but they've had multiple injuries to that unit. Brandon Thorne already ranked it as the worst offensive line in the league going into the 2025 season over on Trench Warfare. And it's only gotten worse. So there is part of me, Fabs, that wonders, could this offensive line be so bad that it prohibits anybody from being like a viable fantasy asset compared to what we saw last year? At the same time, I just think Nico Collins is a baller. And I don't think they trust Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins yet. Cade Stover, one of their starting tight ends, has a foot injury. He's going to be out for the next month. It's really just Dalton Schultz and Nico Collins. And I got to believe that the Texans are going to try to find ways to get Nico Collins more targets because that's the only way this offense is going to be functional.
And that's the reason why I would try and target him, because there are so many question marks about the Houston offense and how effective it'll be. But at the end of the season, if he stays healthy, which is a big if, he will likely be one of the most targeted wide receivers in the league. And so that's what you're looking for, volume. And sometimes you find volume in a bad offense and the numbers are still, very good. So that's the reason why I'm looking at Nico and thinking, can I steal him from somebody right now? And especially if you go into this Monday night game and Nico has another stinker, well, then maybe you have a little bit more of a chance to potentially get him. There are fantasy managers out there. Trust me. I make trades with them all the time. And sometimes I've been accused of being one who, what have you done for me lately? And if you've had a couple of bad weeks, I'm ready to get rid of you. Tyreek Hill is on that list for me. Besides all the off-field stuff, I want to get rid of that dude. I only have him in one league, but I hate it already. But I would certainly look and see if there's a world where you can potentially get Nico Collins for fair value. You're probably not going to get him on the cheap. In fact, you probably won't. But I wouldn't be adverse to going out there and trying to see what Nico Collins' manager might be looking for in a deal.
So let's talk about, first of all, a couple of trades that have happened over on Dynasty League Football regarding Nico Collins. Just in the last couple of days, we have multiple trades of 2 first-round picks for Nico Collins straight up. Now, would you do that if you're a contending team and you just maybe want one more elite level receiver?
If you're a contending team, sure. Okay. To be quite honest with you, getting 2 first-round picks for Nico Collins, my spidey senses start to tingle there. Yeah. I kind of like that deal.
All right, so I wonder if this is not the more plausible way to get him. So take some players that had big week ones that are being drafted a little bit below him, because Nico Collins, wide receiver 8, latest batch of Dynasty ADP. Garrett Wilson, wide receiver 13, 20th overall. Would you trade? I know how much you love Garrett Wilson. Would you trade Garrett Wilson for Nico Collins? I'm assuming you would.
Straight up?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd rather have Nico Collins. Okay. Yes. But I do love Garrett Wilson.
Okay. What about someone like Marvin Harrison Jr., who also had a strong week 1 performance?
Still rather have Nico Collins.
Okay. What about someone like Jackson Smith and Jigbob?
And another guy that I really love, I'd still rather have Nico Collins.
Okay. What about Ladd McConkey?
You know that. I mean, come on. I love Ladd McConkey, but people went ultra bananas on him. His value was too high, and I'd rather have Nico Collins.
So one more big trade I wanted to mention, and this is if you are trying to break down a top receiver, Jamar Chase for Nico Collins and X amount of picks. Fill it in, whatever you would need to happen. That was one of the trades that we saw over the last couple of days. Is that something you would be willing to do? Like, do you believe in Nico
so
that
if
much?
I have Jamar, if I have Jamar, what am I willing to trade in addition to getting Collins? So I would probably need Nico Collins and a first round pick.
So the trade that we saw that happened was it 2 days ago was Nico Collins in 2 first round picks and a second round pick for Jamar Chase. That's
did somebody in Jamar's family make that trade? I mean, like, holy cow.
But I also understand it,
like, man.
And maybe, again, I don't have the details, but maybe it's like a shorter bench league or a 10-team league where, the difference in 2 points per game can ultimately be the difference in winning these games. I don't know, but our point is that there are trades out there for Nico Collins, and I don't think the value is going to get any lower. Maybe if he has a stinker this week, you can get him for outside of top 10 prices, but I do think now is the time to strike.
Yep. I agree with you. I'm just, my brain is like rattled by that trade. I mean, how come people don't offer me those trades in my dynasty leagues? Like, people try to rob me, and I keep telling them, like, guys, it's not going to happen. Although I just did pull off a nice trade with my pal, Brendan Haywood. You might remember him from North Carolina, played many years of pro basketball, a good friend of mine, works for NBA TV. He wanted Harold Fannin. I wanted Bill. So we went Fannin in the third for Bill and Chris Rodriguez, and that's the way you do business.
There you go.
That Jamar for Nico in two ones and a 2.
No, I don't get any of those trades either. It's frustrating. I know. All right, let's talk about 2 NFC East running backs that we are targeting in trades this week. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, and with more IIHS top safety pick awards than anyone else, from footwork to breath work, athletes sweat all of the details, and Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every single model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make your everyday drives feel like anything but, with smooth handling and fantastic controls. And with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Listen, I live up here in Erie, Pennsylvania, where we get a ton of snow, and Mazda vehicles, they absolutely stand out with the 200 inches of snow that we get every single year. But like all our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. It's time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. It's perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It is a hole-in-one for your energy game. And when you're out on the course or just need a little extra boost to power through your day, 5 Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever have to leave the green or chasing down the beverage cart. I love golf, but listen, even me, who golfs almost every day, you need sometimes that pickup at the 13th, 14th hole to finish out your round. And golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. And this grape, ginger, and lime flavor of 5 Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to. And now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for two at any golf tournament in the USA. Tee up that trip. Visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters Tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Fabs, let's talk about some running back targets. Who are you going out and acquiring this week?
I'll certainly put in a little love for Tyrone Tracy, see if I can get him on the cheap. Last week was not a good week from a fantasy perspective, 5.5 points. But the good news is that he played 50 snaps and he led the backfield with 12 touches. Now, also negative game script. So, I mean, it wasn't going to be a good week for any of the Giants running backs unless they got some sort of garbage time touchdown. And we all talk about Cam Scatterbo, who I love watching. But at least in week one, it looked like this is still Tracy's backfield. You got a good matchup coming up against our beloved but horribly run Dallas Cowboys. I just think Tracy is a guy that, like, he doesn't pop in fantasy. He's not one of these players that like, ooh, Tyrone Tracy. But he can be a useful asset. RB2, low RB2, flex type of player. And again, I think he'll remain the starter in New York. And it looks like, based on what we saw last week, he will be the back seeing the lion's share of the touches. Now, that could change moving forward. Okay. I mean, we just don't know. But I think he's a talented guy who's not going to light the world on fire from a fantasy standpoint, but can be a nice asset. I actually tried to get him in a couple of leagues in one of my dynasty leagues. I was not able to do that because people want way too much for some reason. But I think he's a player that you can get in a trade and you're not giving up a ton.
No, and I think he can give you most weeks low end RB2 production, flex production. And I just think he's a good football player. And I know a bias when it comes to fantasy and dynasty that I just want guys that I think are good on my fantasy teams. And I do think the talent will eventually win out like it did at times last year. I don't think this Giants offense is going to be as bad as what we saw on Sunday all year long. I think once they get Andrew Thomas back, their Pro Bowl left tackle, once they stabilize some things on offense. Again, this was Russell Wilson's first game. I don't think we anticipate him being the starter all year long. I think once Jackson Dart becomes a starter, there's just going to be more energy and juice to this offense. And whether that means more targets for Tracy in the backfield, more goal line opportunities, we'll see. But I just think he's a good player. He's going to figure it out, and the Giants are going to figure out ways to get him the ball.
Yeah, and he showed it last year too. Again, wasn't consistent, but was good enough to be in that RB2 flex starter range. I'm still trying to figure out if I want to go with the Cowboys in my survivor pool this week.
No Deron Bland this week. That's a big loss.
I know that's right. Exactly. I was thinking 49ers, and then like their entire offense is hurt basically. Yeah.
So I'm with you on Tyrone Tracy. You can get him very cheap right now. I'm also kind of in on Javonte Williams, and I need to preface all this, right? I'm not trading anything of significant value for Javonte Williams because I do think he is a 1-year starter in Dallas, and the Cowboys are going to move on and draft somebody next year, sign somebody. So you are renting him for the next 15 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's so cheap right now. In even some of the recent trades, like I saw he got traded for Jonathan Brooks. Like, who knows if Jonathan Brooks is ever going to play again and like what that role is ever going to look like.
Yeah.
I think this Cowboys offense is going to be very good. They played one of the better defenses last week and had no problems going up and down the field. He's going to be the goal line back. Miles Sanders, they don't trust. Jaden Blue, they really don't trust. He can't even be active. Even if you don't love Javonte Williams, there's just a ton of opportunity in what we think should be a very good offense.
Yeah, the volume was there last week. That was big. And when I talked about this after the game, it's been, listen, he got lucky. He got fortunate last week. When you have a PI in the end zone and you get a run from the 1 yard line, big, that's beneficial. He was able to get 2 of those goal line opportunities. How many of those is he going to get every week? Probably not as many as 2.
No, but I do think he's going to be their clear-cut goal line back.
100%. So again, he had 20 plus points. I don't think that's a weekly occurrence. No. I think that may end up being the best game he has all season long from a fantasy perspective. But if there's anything that you could take positively out of it is volume. And he is now well over a year removed from that knee injury. So maybe some of the explosion is going to be back.
He looked better. And
looked better. We are just hoping for Rico Dowdle again. We're hoping for 1,000 yards, 5 or 6 touchdowns where you could start him as a flex. And maybe that's going to be the case. And if you're in a situation where you could still get him cheaply, and I don't see any situation where you wouldn't be able to unless someone's just drunk because he had a good game in week 1 and like, I'm getting a second run. No, you're not. But
no.
To get him, even as depth, the bye weeks will be here before you know it. And volume is big. Volume works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. But you are never a bad fantasy manager when you're playing volume. Like Tony Pollard last week, the volume was there. It just didn't happen.
Yeah.
Tyrone Tracy last week, the volume was there. The snaps were there. It just didn't happen. So when you're playing volume, sometimes that's right up there in terms of importance with matchup. And Javonte got the volume last week that we were all kind of hoping he would, because if it was going to really be like a split backfield, that would have made it real difficult. I will say this. When Jaden Blue actually is good enough to get on the field, I wonder how that will affect Javonte. But right now, that's not something we're worrying about, because if you can't pass protect, you are not going to play. And he was a healthy scratch last week, and that's a problem.
One more thing on Javonte. I just thought he looked more explosive than any time we've seen him in Denver. Like, he actually was making some nice cuts and getting downhill and pushing some piles. And maybe you're right. Maybe being, I think 18, 20 months removed from the big knee injury, maybe he's just healthier now. I think it's also worth mentioning that he was number 1 in success rate among all running backs in week 1. And I know you don't get points for being a successful running back, but he converted almost every short yardage situation that the Cowboys gave him. I just think he's going to continue to earn more opportunities, whereas Miles Sanders and Jaden Blue, they don't have the trust of the coaches. We're going to see more Javonte Williams. So a couple of recent trades, Isaac Tesla straight up for him in a short bench league. I think I would do that if you need a running back upgrade. Yeah. We mentioned the trade of Jonathan Brooks. Jonathan Brooks to me has no dynasty value. A 3rd round pick in next year's draft, like more often than not, those 3rd round picks don't even make your team. Like if you are needed running back help, I think Javonte Williams is a really good solution for 15 weeks or so.
Yeah, based on what we saw in the volume in week 1, I can't disagree with you. Again, and I'll have my question marks. The defense scares me so much that I wonder how many negative game scripts that the Cowboys are going to be in where they can't run the ball. But the volume is there.
One more guy from the NFC East before we move on, Jake Ferguson. I know he's somebody that you've been targeting in trades. Make the case.
Well, first off, let's just play off of what we just talked about with the Cowboys offense. They're going to throw the ball a lot. And last week, Ferguson only scored 7 points, which kind of stinks, but he was targeted 6 times, right? And he caught 5 passes. Remember, the year that Ferguson broke out was the year that he played a full season as a starter with Dak Prescott. Last year, Dak didn't play most of the season because he got hurt. Ferguson's numbers went down. Dak has a really good relationship with Ferguson. And we don't know this a lot of the time, but there are certain situations where we do know this. Okay, I'll give you an example. When Keenan Allen went back to the Chargers, I came on this podcast and said, this is going to hurt Ladd McConkey. And whether or not you laughed at me or not, it hurt Ladd McConkey. Why? Justin Herbert loves him. He loves Keenan Allen. And that's big. And when you have trust in a player, you're going to go to that player. Dak Prescott has trust in Jake Ferguson. He showed it 2 years ago when they played fully together. And in week 1, although the numbers weren't great, 6 targets. If I'm getting 6 targets a week from Jake Ferguson, I am dancing in the streets. You got the Giants coming up next. They gave up a touchdown to Zach Ertz last week, which is good. And Ferguson has actually done well against the Giants over the last couple of meetings, 24.5 combined fantasy points. So even looking at just this upcoming week, it's a good matchup. And Ferguson's only 26 years old, and he and Dak are going to be playing together for the majority of the rest of their careers. And I think you can get him cheap. And so if you're hurting a tight end, and I've said this before, and I think Marcus agrees with me here, Jake Ferguson is a nice, cheap, and I think ultimately will be a reliable target for Dak Prescott and a potential top 12 tight end in fantasy.
Yeah, and we should mention that there was an opportunity for him to have a huge game. He had a pass in the end zone, which
he got speared and nailed. Yeah,
kind of was bobbling, and I think he would have ultimately brought it in if he didn't get hit in the head by I think it was Reed Blankenship. Like there was an opportunity here for him to get a lot more fantasy points. So going up against like the Giants this week, they just lost their top linebacker, Micah McFadden. Like I think he's going to bounce back. And if you lost George Kittle or you're worried about Dallas Goedert's health, I think Ferguson right now is a good time to buy before the numbers really start to come up.
Yep, totally agree with you. And this is not just two heartbroken Cowboys fans spinning some success and positive vibes into the Dallas.
Well, we know that the Cowboys defense is going to be so bad that they have to throw the ball. So this is one of the offenses that we want you to target. Yes.
And now Deron Bland's not going to play for a few weeks. So it's brutal. It would be, I mean, listen, at least we have a pass rusher in my, we don't have him anymore. Damn you, Jerry.
I know. All right. Let's talk about some quarterbacks that we are going to go out and try to get in our dynasty leagues. And one who I actually disagree with Fabs a little bit. Let's talk about Drake Maye next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you're ready with kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it allows me to bet however I like, player props, building a same game parlay, or even jumping in the live action market. But one of the things I like more than anything is jumping on the future stuff. Like I like to go see who's going to be, who's the favorite to win MVP, who's going to win the NFC East, who's going to be the comeback player of the year. And it makes every game just a little bit more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your dynasty lineups. It's quick, it's easy, and plus it's the best way to add just a little bit more energy to your Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. The NFL season is finally here, so for your second listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL Podcast. Tyler, the Madman Rowland, gives you a shot of espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you to the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, let's talk about Drake Maye because he's your number one quarterback target that you are trying to acquire in every trade over the next couple of days. Tell us why.
First off, we got to get you a nickname. We got Madman. We got to get Marcus a nickname. We got to. I
want to hear the best ones from our listeners. So let me know.
We'll send that out. Yeah. So I mean, listen, Drake Maye didn't have a great game last week, but he wasn't awful. You know, what around 15, 16 fantasy points. I'll take it. I know the rushing numbers are going to be there. It looks like, Kayshon Boutte may turn into something. We'll see. They got Diggs there. And look, he's got the Dolphins this week. They just gave up 30 to Daniel Jones. They made Daniel Jones look like insert good Colts quarterback here. Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck. Should I go back to Johnny Unitas? Anyways, Drake Maye, he may have his value dropped a little bit after, again, fantasy-wise, it was okay. But I am a big fan of this kid. I think he's going to end up being a QB1 from a fantasy perspective long term. New England's going to continue to make smart moves in terms of the draft and free agency and continue to bolster the offensive line, bring in new weapons for him. He's already got Travion Henderson, who, we didn't see much from last week. He was a pretty good pass catcher, had 5 catches from a fantasy standpoint. The numbers weren't great, but it's week 1. I love Drake Maye. I'm not jumping off the Drake Maye bandwagon anytime soon. And so if I can get him, if someone's frustrated after one bad week, I don't mind going out and getting him. And I like him this week against Miami.
Here's my fear with Drake Maye, because I agree with everything you're saying. I don't know if he's good. And
what's wrong with him?
Well, he's just not been a very good quarterback in the NFL. Now, I'm not saying he won't get there. He has some unbelievable traits. You love the build. You love his athletic ability. But man, this is probably the worst. Well, no, Miami's the worst defense he's going to play, but the Raiders secondary is awful, absolutely awful. And they don't really have a pass rush outside of Max Crosby. They were at home and he still didn't look very good. And I think that's my only fear is that if we get further into the season and Mike Vrabel realizes that their quarterback isn't a franchise changing guy, are we going to see them throttle down the passing game and just lean on more of the run game, play more defense? I just want to see him look awesome for an entire game to get me thinking that he can be the next Justin Herbert or something like that. Because right now, what I've seen, don't love.
He's very young career.
Yes, of course.
Didn't start an entire season in 2024. We'll get that opportunity now. I have no issues with Drake Maye. I don't have these delusions that he's going to be a top 10 quarterback this season, guaranteed. But I've said it before. Like, if you project his rushing totals over a full season from last year in the games that he played the majority of the snaps, I mean, he's a 650 yard runner as a quarterback. So, I mean, listen, Justin Fields doesn't look good either. You know, I mean, he's not.
Well, he actually looked better this week. I thought he looked as good this week as Maye's ever looked.
But listen, Justin, if you're going to do a top 12 of the best passers in the NFL, Justin Fields is not going to sniff it.
No, of course not.
But we're talking fantasy here because he can run with the ball. So I still feel pretty good about Drake Maye. And if maybe I have Brock Purdy's not going to play this week and I need to play a quarterback, I think Drake Maye is a good pivot against Miami.
So I will say this. I think the quarterbacks that are being drafted after Drake Maye, and it's that group of Brock Purdy, CJ Stroud, Jordan Love. Like, you guys know that tier. That is the easiest tier to replace a quarterback in. So if you can upgrade Jordan Love to Drake Maye, I would probably do that. But I just don't think, for me, I don't think I'm going to be all that aggressive going out and getting Drake Maye. I think I just want to see it a little bit more. I just want to see him. I want to see this offense be functional as a passing attack. And it just hasn't been that way yet.
Yep. Yeah. Better things are coming, my friend. I feel good
about get Caleb Williams, honestly.
I feel good about this.
I'd rather have Caleb Williams, who is being drafted.
I know. I would too. I would too. Yeah, no, I'd rather have Caleb Williams too. I'd rather have him over JJ McCarthy, though. I'd rather have him over Michael Penix.
Yeah, because Penix got you a rushing touchdown last week, but he's not going to do it consistently.
Yeah.
McCarthy is interesting because, man, you saw the flashes of it. NFC Player of the Week, by the way, which is ridiculous.
Wait, he really did win NFC Player of the Week?
Yeah,
he had one good quarter.
It's all it takes, I guess. That's how bad the rest of the NFC was.
Work?
Who knows? So real quick, you would rather have Maye over McCarthy by a lot, right?
I'm not saying by a lot because I got to factor in Kevin O'Connell, but I'd rather have him over McCarthy. Yeah, certainly.
Okay. All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. Go download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Fabs on Twitter at Michael_Fabiano. I'm at Marcus_Mosher, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.